Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aspen Bridge. I'm Suzanne Plumley, your host, as I have been for the last, oh my gosh, 56 episodes. And I have with me today one of my guests is full of sunshine, Tammy Magnusson. We had met in Dallas about 2 years ago, and let me tell you, she is just sunshine. And I know that sounds woo-woo to you, but let me tell you, there are certain people that have a lot of energy and I love them because they bring energy to me. They're just so full of energy. I feel their energy. And then there are some people that are cloudy, like Eeyore on Winnie the Pooh, where you just feel like, ugh. You get done with a conversation, you just feel like you're out of energy already. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not possible. But do you know that energy from one person to another is contagious? And that is what my guest today is all about. Her energy is so big that she just shares it with everybody. But before we get to introducing Tammy, with all the awesome aspects that are out in the world telling you what the traits of autism are, the mission of the Aspen Bridge is not so much to also tell you the traits, but to introduce you to some wonderful guests that have a special zone of expertise. And what I do is when you approach me, I will connect you with people like Tammy and all the guests that came before her, all the guests that will come after her to help you just have the information you need to go into society, go across the bridge into society, knowing that you can handle life. It's not about staying on the neurodivergent island and feeling alone. It's about knowing that you have wonderful human resources, which we didn't receive when we were little because nobody knew we were autistic for those of us who are late diagnosed. No one knew. So I have decided that the best thing to do is to bring on all my guests and pair you up so that you can receive information that you never received and people didn't tell you about. And we are both part of an organization called Brave Thinking Institute, where we all both became life coaches to help you. Now, the difference between a life coach and a therapist is a therapist may have you rehashing what came in the past, whereas a life coach helps you go forward in your life with advice and help and energy and support and love to go forward in your life. We're not going to ask you to tell us what your story was in the past. We're going to help you take it from here and go forward. So I would love to introduce my guest today, Tammy Magnusson, and she will tell you what she does and a little bit why she might be willing to be a guest on my show and to be a bridge builder, which is what I call all of my life coaches who have joined up with me. Tammy, welcome. Can you tell us about yourself?
Oh, I just love your vision. And I think that's the one thing I noticed first about you, Suzanne, was just like, this is a woman that has a lot of vision and is going to be spreading the word. So I'm Tammy Magnusson. This is Pixie, who will pop in and out, I'm sure, as she will. And, I think a lot of my stuff is life experience and just trying to figure out how to deal with things. So, in let's see, like in 2011, I went through a really serious depression. I was just having a very difficult time going through a custody battle with my first three kids. And during that time, I came across a guy on YouTube who started telling me how the brain works. And I was like, I've studied psychology and humanity and self-help books for 20 years. How come I never knew how my brain worked? So interesting. And so he started telling me that everything that I think, like even the images, even the old past stories, even the words that someone else said to me are stored in my brain. And therefore I can do something about it. And so I started doing something about it. And about 2 hours later, I started feeling better. And along the way, my friend was very surprised when I dropped my kids off at her house and we started talking. And then I'm like, oh my word, I have to go to court. And she's like, what? You forgot? Like, because I was so anxious, so depressed, so worried, constantly um, fixating on court she was shocked that I could possibly forget, but that's how much healing I had done. And then in 2017, I was scheduled for a total knee replacement. And I went back to this man's ideas of how our brain works. And uh, as I know you said, like, we don't go back in my work as a life coach. I definitely want to keep moving people forward. But in some ways, with my brain work, I have to go back and find what is and it's not always a trauma, it's just a memory. What's the memory? And there was a memory of when I first injured my knee and I had to have surgery. And so this is kind of an old injury. And uh, I cleaned up that memory. And there's specific ways that they taught me to clean up the memory. And then all of a sudden, I started finding solutions that were working. And my swelling went down in my knee. I got off crutches and I canceled my total knee replacement 2 weeks later. And in 5 months, I got my black belt. Now I was scheduled to get my black belt and I had to put it off, but I was doing well enough that I was able to perform for my black belt test 5 months later. So this work is so important to me because it's interesting. People will say, like, you have really good energy. And I don't feel like I've ever worked on my energy, but I've worked a
Mm-hmm.
lot on my memories and what I'm
Mm.
holding inside my mind that keeps being replayed. And whether that's, your parents are lacking, your siblings were mean, people at school treated you badly, it doesn't matter what it is, those events still impact us until we learn how to clean them up. So I started neuroscience and brain training for 2 years. It was a 2-year course, and I got my level 4 as a practitioner with faster EFT, which involves neuro linguistic programming, tapping, uh, hypnosis, and other, kind of modalities of understanding how the brain works. And 7 years later, here I am. So
Wow.
that's the story.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so now today, there's so much in that goodness I want to pull apart, but today you and I are looking at a specific avenue that you really do well on, and that is learning how to have that positive body image inside and
Right.
outside. And we can feel like we're want to go back to bed, but we go off and we put on that toxic positivity. I hate to say it that way, but if your insides are not lined up with your outsides, people are going to notice. They're going to know when you're
That's right.
not in sync with
Mm-hmm.
your insides and your outsides. And this
Yeah.
is when I don't like the phrase fake it till you make it, because even if you try, you put on that mask, as autistics tend to do. We put on that mask. I'm fine. I'm fine. You can even hear it in my voice. I'm fine. But are you
Yeah.
really? Are you really? And this is
Yeah.
when you want to pull in people like Tammy and say, how can I get in harmony with what I'm
Yes.
feeling? And we're also going to talk about when you're not in harmony. What do we tend to do? We tend to do habits that we're not crazy about, but we can't stop them.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to sit down and watch TV with a bag of potato chips
That's
because we
right.
don't feel like we can go forward. We may go get that last piece or that chocolate donut, anything to try and get in harmony so that we can cope in the world. But it doesn't
Right.
start on the outside. It starts on the
That's right.
inside. Starts on the
Yeah.
inside. And that's what we're talking about today. But before I go there, the memory, Tammy, is amazing what you were talking about, because that's one of my strengths, memory and visualization. And my
Mm-hmm.
family will always tell you, right? I have the best memory. Unfortunately, it wasn't the happiest memories. So, yeah, I went through and I looked at some of those. And let me tell you, the last 4 months of my life have been a study in how to change the vibration, how to change the energy. Because I
Yeah.
went from feeling like I was a hostage in my mother's home because we were at odds with each other. And we both had habits
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't living together before that we were trying to match up these habits. And have you ever tried to put two plus sides of the magnet together? Yeah, they repel. And even though we were alike,
I have to write. Yeah.
we were trying to come together, but we were like two positive sides of the magnet and we were repelling. It's like she didn't like my habits of how I was living without her in my own homes, and she was living her habits in her home. And I, because of certain circumstances I'm not going to go into now, but we were at odds. And so we were feeling really kind of yucky. And I like that word right here because that's exactly how we were making each other feel. And it
Right.
wasn't fun. And it wasn't, and then I go into her kitchen and her kitchen was not exactly the way I would keep a kitchen. And it was making me even more frustrated because I wasn't feeling the nourishment, the emotional nourishment, or the physical nourishment because it wasn't the way I would keep a kitchen. And so we just kept on banging up
Wow.
against each other and repelling until my brother stepped in and really kind of became the solution that dissolved the repelling. And so now I am going to be moving on to my own place. I have the energy returning. I can start to feel the energy returning that wasn't there just even a week ago. Just a week ago. So I have to
Wow.
tell you that when you can dissolve a negative memory, which is kind of what I heard Tammy saying, when you can dissolve a negative memory and replace it with a
Yeah.
positive outlook, your energy level just goes up. What do you think, Tammy? I heard you say you like a
I
lot
love
of.
that. I love, yeah, I love the word dissolve. And I think what we don't always understand is like, so I wrote this down because I was like, a hostage in your own home. Like, how many people felt like a hostage in their home? And now they're thinking, nobody's going to restrict me. So they are eating all the sweets and all the junk food and, watching TV all the time and doing all these things that prove that we're some kind of an adult. But in our conscious mind, we know that's not adult, right?
Mhm.
But in our subconscious mind, like, yeah, I can do this. I can get away with this. I can. And so, what is that part of us? It's a childhood memory of feeling like a hostage. So, then what we always want to look at is how would we know that? One of the greatest questions you can ask yourself is, how do I know this? And there should be two ways. You either see it or you hear it.
Mhm.
Now, the what you see and what you hear, if you see I'm a hostage, what does that look like? Does that look like I have to stay in my room or else mom's going to yell at me? Does it look like, I don't get access to the car or, even as a younger child, everything you do gets criticized. How does that look or what does it sound like? And then that creates a feeling. But what happens is when it's locked in the back of your mind that you're a hostage, but you're actually an adult now or a teenager or somebody that has more autonomy, you're going to feel that same way just because the image or sound is there. So, in order to dissolve those images and sounds, interrupting is one of the most foundational pieces. So, you have
Mhm.
something to say? You're excited?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it was funny because you talk about that, and that's exactly what happened a week ago Saturday. And we were all at my brothers came down to Texas where I live with my mom, and we were at the dinner table, and it felt like I was flashed right back to an eighth grader, eighth, ninth, 10th grader in high school, where in my
We
mom's
are losing
mind,
you. Can't hear
oh,
you.
I don't know.
Oh, there
Am I
you go.
here? Here we go. It flashed back to when I was an eighth,
You're
ninth, 10th
breaking up,
grader.
so I couldn't quite.
Oh no. All right, here we go. I
All right.
think,
Well, Suzanne,
yes, bear with us. Have grace, everybody, for technology. Am I coming in louder?
Yes,
Okay.
that's better.
All right. Perfect. Everyone have grace for technology. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks that even that will improve. Anyway, I was
Yes.
flashed back to when I was a kid and I was trying to talk. And every time I was part of the conversation, because in my mom's mind, only boys were supposed to be empowered. It was the boys. And I was supposed to sit there like a little person and just keep my mouth shut. And I decided as an adult, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. So I think that finally got the gears shifting. Like, I am individual and I am an adult and I can be a part of this conversation. And it's kind
Yeah.
of funny because I think of myself as a rebellious teen and I'm in my 50s. And it shouldn't feel that way. I feel like the that wasn't allowed to come out back in the 80s is now finally coming
Yeah.
out. I'm now becoming an independent person who has values and a mind, and I'm like, I'm no longer going to do that. And that is the first step to go forward, is seeing that past memory, feeling it now, and saying, how can I change? How can I change that vision of what it was to what it can be? And that is the beginning of getting your
Mm,
insides to grow.
right. Yes. And, it doesn't, a lot of people think, well, I thought this too. I was like, what does my childhood have to do with this? Like, I had some serious accidents and I've had my knee surgery, of course. And then when I get to, well, I suppose I was like 48. I don't know what I was in 2017, in my 40s. And I was like, what does that old knee injury, that old surgery have to do with today? But what we don't understand is how the image. So if you think of a dog, you're probably not going to think of my dog. You're going to think of a dog that's been in your experience, right? A dog that's in your life or a dog that's been in your past. Maybe you've been bit by a dog, so now you'll feel scared of dogs. Maybe, a dog saved your life, so you're going to feel grateful to them. The feeling comes with what the image is. So when we have
Mm.
images of feeling like we can't speak up like Suzanne did, um, we are going to feel more like a rebellious kid instead of just like this is what adults do, like this is normal behavior. And so exactly, you said change the vision of it, and I love that. And it's not, I think earlier you said something about fake it till you make it, and our brain just updates things when we interrupt it and give it a different resource. We always go back and check and see what is left. What still bothers you about having to sit there with your mouth shut, you know?
Mm.
And what bad thing would happen if you opened your mouth? Then what would have happened? And what feelings would that elicit? And then just really interrupting it and going to a place in your mind and nature where you love things, bringing up those good feelings, and then going back and checking. You're going to be this little girl that speaks up for herself. How does that feel? And re-envisioning it, dissolving the old, which isn't true anymore. Sometimes
Mhm.
people have a lot of resistance when I say, your experience isn't true anymore.
Mhm.
It's just a figment of your imagination. And literally, I could show you an image of a neuron. It's just a figment between these two neurons, these two nerves that have this light going between them and this communication. And that's all a memory is now. So as we let them go, then we can be more authentic to how we should have been, how we should have been treated. We can reparent ourselves. We can give ourselves what we always did need
Mhm.
instead of holding what they did against them. It's an act of forgiveness, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth there because yeah, it's like even as a child, even as a teenager, you have a right to accept what other people think of you And that goes into your heart, that goes into your body, that takes away from your body image because you're like feeling smaller and smaller. It's like, well, maybe I should just sit here and keep my mouth shut. And what
That's
kind of body
right. Yeah.
image is that saying? Or you can say, well, that's their truth, that's their opinion. I can't change it, but I can change me. And learning
Yeah.
how to improve your body image is in posture, in how you say, okay, I accept your opinion. I may not agree with it, or I may agree with it, but that's not my truth. And truth is with a capital T. It's not just a basic truth. That's your soul truth of who you choose to be. Now you can say, yeah, I'm just an autistic woman and nobody cares about me. But let me tell you, joined this organization that Tammy and I are part of. What a difference. Tammy, what can you say about organization while my internet goes in and out?
Yeah. I think what I love, some of the things that I love most about it are really this understanding that we're all a spirit having a human experience. And so when we can have this different association with our body, like it's allowing me to experience life, we come from a point of gratitude instead of a point of like, oh, great, this terrible piece of equipment doesn't work right, which is how we approach our body often, right?
Our Earth
So
suit. Our
we're a
Earth suit, yeah.
spiritual being. Our birth suit. Yeah. Yeah. So, and what is it that we always want to look externally for, like they have it better, they're taller, they're shorter, they're skinnier, they're fatter, they're muscular, they're like we're always looking outward to have this approval of ourselves. And that's a comparison mindset instead of the mindset that we are all connected and that their benefit is our benefit, and how we can together um benefit humanity
Yeah.
because we have this birth suit. Like, and I think it helps refeed us the health and wellness that we deserve instead of what happens when we put ourselves down and judge ourselves and are critical of ourselves, which is just something we learned. It's just a memory we learned from.
Yeah.
It's not us.
And it was from maybe for some of us, it was the bullying we felt or whatever
Yeah.
growing up on the school playground. But I think it's time as adults that we can start to say, you know what? That's what they think. I love my eyes. I love the way my eyes smile. I mean, I almost don't have to smile. My eyes smile for me. Or what's another part of you that you love? I like the fact that I'm petite. I don't need to be tall. I like the fact that I'm not a very tall person. It's kind of a little package. And if you can try and find things you love about yourself, and that just goes against the competition that Tammy was talking about of
Right.
I wish I were taller. I wish I were. I wish I were. I wish I were. Well, wishing doesn't bring any difference to you. You have to find out what you already possess, what's already within
Mm-hmm.
you. What do you love about yourself? I actually like the fact that I'm super sensitive because it means that I really take it to heart how other people are feeling, how words are affecting me, and how my words affect someone else. I like the fact that I'm compassionate to people's challenges. I like the fact that I can really pain, even if they are trying to smile through it. And I can say, I noticed that you're feeling a little down today. I'm not down. Yes, it's okay. I get it. I understand. So being super sensitive is not a negative to me. It shows that I genuinely care about the person I'm spending time with, and I'm taking the time to spend with them because I want to be with them. What can you say on the idea of finding, replacing that criticism, outward and inward criticism? What can you think of that we can help people to change that internal body image? so that the external will match.
Yes. Okay. This is great. Uh, I think that's just so delightful that you're that way too, Suzanne. Like really, without a body, you wouldn't be able to do that for someone else. So right there, we can stop and appreciate the fact, sometimes we do things for other people, we do things for other people, and we start feeling wore out for doing things for other people or saying things or going out of our way or whatever. But like if we take the time to appreciate, like my body is allowing me to be able to do this at this time in this space and this day and be present with it, that can be really powerful. But as far as criticism, like every time I've worked with somebody, criticism is an auditory memory.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. It's not you criticizing yourself, it's someone else's voice. So, first of all, just asking yourself, whose voice is it? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it a sibling? Is it a teacher? Is it a friend? Whose voice is that critical voice? And then there are techniques that can really help to just would it disappear, would dissolve. I love that word, dissolve. You said dissolve earlier, to dissolve the feeling of criticism, and then it will stop showing up in our lives. So one of the things that I do is to either, like sometimes I get really goofy with it when it's a sound worm, and that means like those words keep going in your head, like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Or how come you did that? Or why can't you be this way? Or those kind of critical words that we heard, noticing who said those things. And then I like to pretend it's going to play itself backwards. So like if it was one of those record players that you could just and play it backwards,
Yeah.
and then notice how that feels. Like, wow, it feels kind of silly now. Great. And then take that sound, that critical sound, notice whose voice it is. Maybe it's their face with the voice that bothers you. So make their mouth moving like and sounding like a chipmunk, like those chipmunks that sing like Christmas, Christmas time is here. Those chipmunks.
Yes,
So have that whole scenario playing in your head like it's playing over them. Whoever that person reminds you of, that makes you feel like you weren't good enough. And that's what criticism does. But now we're doing it to ourselves, aren't we? We
yes, we
get to a
are.
certain age when someone else criticized us, then we start to do it to ourselves. So that means that's very empowering. That means if we're doing it to ourselves, we can stop it right up here. So, so we have the play it backwards, we have the turn it into the chipmunk singing or some goofy character that has a silly voice. So it starts to feel different. I mean, if they said like, "You're so stupid, you're so stupid," in a silly voice, you'll have to do that. Yes, so we'll continue where we left off. So taking that voice and just playing with different sounds that help you feel better. And then sometimes I'll even make it so that the voice sounds really tiny or really small, like it's getting further and further away. That critical voice can feel like it's right inside of us and it's like, da, right? Super loud and it's the only thing we can hear. Well, imagine that it's getting smaller and further away and further, 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 all the way up to the stars or even further out, right? And now what does it sound like? Maybe it sounds like silence. And then what would you love to fill that with? What is the opposite feeling of those critical words? If they made you feel not good enough, maybe feeling fulfilled or feeling content or feeling important, right? What is it that you needed to feel? And and repeat those words for yourself. And eventually, if you do this enough, or if you have help with it even, you'll be able to see that same person saying those words to you, and then you'll have a massive transformation. So critical words are just sounds. Mix those letters up. Sometimes I say them backwards. If somebody said you're stupid, I might spell it backwards. Dip uts. What does diputs mean? And then I make something up, right? I make it up like it's silly. It's like, oh, that means that I'm like the most important person to them. And I'm playing this mind game until my brain can let go of the feeling. You'll know when your brain lets go of the feeling because it'll feel like a trigger's released. You'll be like,
Hmm.
oh, that feels better, right? And then you can
Absolutely.
go on with your day. So these things that happen inside our mind, we get to change them, update them, control them. They're not set in stone. They are not us.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
changing those critical words can really completely change the way you feel about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, now that we're working on really changing our insight so we're in harmony, what can you help people understand about why they might go into stress eating? Is that because they're not able to change those feelings? Or they're feeling like, well, if someone thinks I'm fat, I might as well keep eating. How can we change that eating process from eating out of spite versus eating consciously? And that is like, well, I haven't had a donut in a while and these look so good. I'm going to treat myself. So I guess that's
Right.
the answer in a sense, is you now consciously say, I haven't had a donut in a while. I would like one. I'm going to treat myself. I'm not going to eat two or three because that might be the stress eating. But I will
Right.
allow myself because I do care about myself to eat one. What can you talk about? Let's spend the rest of our time together talking about
Yeah.
how to combat stress eating because I know that that's something that you really can help us with as well.
Yes. So I think one of the most important things is to find out for yourself because each person's different. And I really want people to be able to ask questions to find out, like for themselves, how come a donut is a treat? How come? Where did you ever learn that something toxic is actually a treat? And so it probably goes back to a memory where grandma or dad takes you out to somewhere, or you get this special little trip, or it's your birthday, or like you need to feel special. And so when the donut was presented to you, how did you feel? Special.
Mm,
But the donut's not the feeling.
yeah.
It's just the poison, it's just the toxin that you're going to hurt yourself with. So, uh, once you find out that you needed to feel important, we'll just say that for ease for you guys. But if you understand that connection, there's always a connection with foods. Foods that we hate, something bad happened around them. Foods we're allergic
Mm,
to, something bad happened around them. Foods we love, something good happened. And the brain just says we fire together, we wire together, and we store it in the back so that when you need to feel good, you're going to go grab that donut.
hmm.
But it's not true, right? You said truth with a capital T. It's not true and it's not working, right? It's only making us more sick, more miserable, less energy, um, less health, diabetes, all of these things that happen from stress eating. And it's only that association. So, whatever, we'll say dad takes you out for a donut on your birthday and you feel important. All right, we'll just use that story. So, when you saw the donut and you felt important, you misplaced the feeling of importance on the donut instead of on your dad.
Oh, okay. I get it. I get it. Right.
So dad is making you feel important, not the donut. But the brain just saw the donut and it said, whatever I see means that I have the same emotion. So there's no way to separate that emotion from that. Like if I try taking people's donuts away and they still feel they're probably going to start getting very angry and hostile towards me because they want to feel important,
Hmm.
right? But if I can disassociate it and say, it's not the donut, let's let that go. That isn't true. Just notice how it's not true that you feel important. The more donuts you eat, the bigger you get, the more uncomfortable you feel, the less energy you have, the more aches and pains you have, the more disease you have. Like it's literally not true. It doesn't add up. So
Hmm.
then we separate that by interrupting it, just like I did earlier. Like we interrupt and we think about something good. We go back and notice if there's still that connection. It might be a little less. The donut's making me feel important. And even asking like, where inside of you is that important feeling? And this can be really, so I'll explain this because somebody asked me that question when I was super sad, and they were like, well, where do you feel sad? And I'm like, well, you'd feel sad too if somebody did this to you. Well, and they're like, no, where inside your body is the sensation? And I had to stop and think and like scan my body. So I ask you to scan your body right now. When you feel important, where do you feel that inside? When I felt sad, there was a lump in my throat. And
I was
people
just
talk
gonna
about a
say
lump in
that,
their throat.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So however we learned that sadness is a lump in your throat, that's all sadness is, a lump. Like I can dissolve that lump by consciously thinking about it. Or where did it come from? Right. But feeling important, where do we feel that? Does that feel like our heart is expanding? Does it feel like our shoulders are squarer? Does it feel like um, you know, what does that feel like inside? Does it feel like our stomach has butterflies or jumping beans? Or so notice what that sensation is for you, feeling important.
mm,
All right.
yep.
And now we want to link that to person, not a donor. We want to
Oh,
link that to the fact that we can do that for ourselves. The fact that dad helped us feel that way. And we can link it to connection with a human instead of a donut. And then we can even say, like, what would we rather have had dad do? And as long as everything's really flat with the donut, like it takes some time. You have to work with a person to say, to take the love out of the donut and the feeling important away from the donut. And that just takes lots of interrupting until the person feels like, yeah. And then we're going to associate the love to dad. And what would be more beneficial? What would the little you have loved to do with dad that would have made you feel important? Maybe you would have loved to go horseback riding together. Maybe you would have loved to blow up balloons and send them off together. Maybe you would have loved to go play with puppies together. Like, what activity can you associate I'm important with instead of food?
mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
then lastly, and this is the really hard part, but people love it because it gives such great benefits. Lastly, you're going to make that donut the most disgusting thing you've ever smelled or seen.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just going to start to imagine the grossest smell coming from that donut,
Ooh, it
like
smells like a skunk.
worse, like the worst smell you've ever smelled, like that it makes you gag. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I want to have people looking at that donut and literally gagging
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it's doing into the body, right? It's not
Okay.
working for the heart or the stomach or the blood vessels. It's not working for the brain. It's just a toxin. It's like putting water in your gas tank. Would you do that to your car?
Oh,
No,
right.
it would work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
putting soap into your oil. Do you want to ruin it? No. So we want to make the donut so disgusting um that I use whatever works for somebody. Some people are grossed out by blood and guts, and some people are nurses and it doesn't bother them a bit to have blood and guts. But some people are grossed out by animal poop and you know, whatever they've seen before that makes them grossed out. We want to apply that to the donut. We want to link it to the donut so that basically the next time they see a donut, they're going to be like, gross. I'm just going to think
Um,
about having fun with my dad and how great that experience was because that's a more true use of the feeling importance.
mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. That's good. Let's shift it up a little bit. Now, let's look at it from the standpoint, maybe it's a happiest memory. Like my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, loved to bake, and I loved to bake with her. So it was a
Yeah.
happy feeling. Now, I know that with my group that I'm working with, it's an all or nothing sometimes. And so is there ever a time when, or is there ever something when they can excuse themselves for enjoying something. Let's just call it a wedding cake when it's based on a happy time. Because what's going to happen is they're now going to say all sweets are bad. But can we change it up so that they can be like, well, if I'm eating potato chips in front of the television instead of doing what I would love to do, that's the bad experience because that's the avoidant, which a lot of people in my group are. That's the self avoidant activity. I'm not going to do that because I can't do it right. And so I'm going to sit here and eat potato chips. But what if we have the reverse where we're going out, we're getting into society, we're going to a wedding of a daughter, a cousin, anyone who's special to us, and they offer us cake. How can I help my clientele, my listeners, know that it's okay to sometimes enjoy it? Now, what I like to say is for me, I won't eat the whole piece of cake that's delivered to me, but I'll enjoy a couple of bites. Is that the way you might help them to shift from an all or nothing kind of philosophy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that whether they accept the cake or don't accept the cake is how is it making them feel a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just don't want that link to happen in the brain where like, oh, I'm included or I belong because I'm having cake.
Oh,
So
that's a
can we
different
get
way.
to the point where we belong? Yeah. Do we belong even if we don't have cake? Then it's probably okay to have cake. I mean, it's still not healthy for our body, but it really is. What sense are you getting from it? Because if you're connecting a very positive emotion with a thing, just like grandmas all help us do. I mean, I have that too with cookies, and my grandma was an exceptional cooker, and it's all good feelings associated with these sweets,
Mm.
but not true. We know that truth means it's beneficial. And just like we don't put a little bit of water in our gas tank, it would wreck our car. The human body is so resilient that we've been able to stuff it full of junk and it still somehow survives and lives for a lot of people for years and years, disease free. But making sure, I guess, that when you accept something because everyone else is doing it, that's not that thing that makes you feel like you belong. It's them. It's their
Mm.
face. It's their to include you. It's them inviting you. It's them, smiling at you. So really making it about human connection instead of about food connection.
Ah, I get it. I get it. So if
I
there's
mean,
a
this
feeling,
happens
it's
with everybody.
yeah, it
It's not
does.
just athletes, this happens with everybody where it's easier to connect with food or an animal or a piece of furniture or a place in the world than it is to connect with people. And that's because of our bad experiences, right?
Good point.
So
Good
let's not
point.
make it about the thing,
Yeah.
right?
And perhaps when we think consciously, there's a donut and there's an apple. When we say to
Yep.
ourselves, how do I want to feel? I know I
Yeah.
like the sweet, but I know the apple will make me feel better later on. So maybe,
Energetic and lively and
yeah,
associate that good feeling. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So maybe when you see something that may not be the best for you, maybe that's when you can say to yourself consciously, while I would love the donut because it would taste yummy, I also know that I should probably enjoy some cheese or a better choice. So taking the conscious step to say, I love donuts. I love sweets. I said this right in my Facebook page. I love sweets. But consciously knowing how it will affect you later on, or even in a couple of minutes, is going to help you
Yeah.
decide, do I really want to punish my body, even if I'm giving myself happy endorphins for eating the sugar, am I going to punish my body in the
Exactly.
process? And so that's when
Right.
You have to stop. So many times people are like, I'm sitting down, I'm gonna watch a movie, I'm gonna eat that buttered popcorn without giving it a full thought of what might
Right.
be a better
It's just
choice.
there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I will be the first to say I'm guilty. I can't watch too many movies without hot buttered popcorn. So
Snacking. Yeah. They kind of, I mean, in society, a lot of things have gone together, and it really is, um, it's our identity with belonging in the family and being celebrated at birthday parties and being included. And it's all of these feelings around it. And it's just not the food, but the brain
mm,
believes it is. So it's really disassociating the feeling from the food and using food to fuel you for fun and purpose and a full life instead of using it to help you feel better.
that's the key right there. Using food to make you feel better. That's when we had to stop ourselves, take what we call a
Yeah,
pause, and say, do I
right.
really want to eat that? And what is that going to do for my feelings? Is it going to change it? It will for what? Maybe a minute or two while you're enjoying it, maybe a half an
And then you'll
hour.
feel bad and guilty and disgusted and angry, all those things that come afterwards with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunately a short-lived enjoyment, isn't it? Because after a while, you're like, oh, I really shouldn't have eaten that. And why did I eat that?
Right.
And that's when stress eating comes into play. Oh, Tammy, this has been so helpful, and I'm glad we spend the majority of the time helping people to get their emotional inside to match their emotional outside so that they can be authentic. And that's a lot of what this is all about, is becoming authentic. And Tammy, would you like to add any final words
Right.
to our conversation?
Oh, we lost you again.
Yes. Would you like to add any final
Oh, there we
words?
go. I can. Oh, I'm just grateful to be able to share this work. Like, I think I would just be a completely different person if I hadn't learned this for myself. And so I really appreciate being able to share it. And I hope that some of the things I said, especially with being critical of your body or even the association with food, you can really take to heart and be like, oh, fascinating. It doesn't have to be unconscious to us. It can be, we can make it, we can release it, let it go, and then make conscious choices for what we're going to eat and how we're going to speak inside of our own heads about ourselves.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, it starts with the inside out, not the outside in. You can't eat the
Right,
donut to make you feel better, to make your heart feel better. You got to start and say,
right.
I deserve better so that I can feel better, so that I can make more conscious eating choices. Start from the
Very
inside
good.
out, not the outside in. And I've said this about so many things. It's like, unfortunately, our world is so based on the external
It
environment.
is. Yeah,
So much about the external environment. Well, what are they going to think about me when they see me? Well, you really have to say no. What do I think about myself so that I can project a happy energy so that I feel comfortable when I belong? And it starts inside out. Because if you try and go from the outside
that's
in,
right.
you're fooling yourself. So, Tammy, I want to
Yeah.
say thank you
And
so
I
much
think
for
you said,
coming today.
thank you.
And I
I
thank my listeners for having grace for this crazy internet. We'll be back. And if Tammy and I need to reschedule to redo this, if the video comes out bad, we'll let you know.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.